Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another exciting episode of PAS Professional Amazon Sellers. And I'm your host, Ruben. And for today, we have a great guest, a dear friend, Tim Talley, a founder of a ULACE and Shark Tank. Some of you may even recognize him from a Shark Tank. His product was featured there, and it's one of these. I've been having guests and I've been talking about their innovative products because it is so exciting to have the founders of these unique products and the mindset in them. So without further ado, Tim, why don't you tell everyone what is the ULACE and introduce yourself?
Ruben, hi, how you doing? Oh, hi, everybody. My name's Tim Talley. I'm the founder and CEO of ULACE. ULACE is a shoelace replacement that turns lace-up sneakers into slip-ons. I came up with the idea for ULACE on a Trendspotting trip to Japan. I saw a pair of sneakers in the store that were laced up in multiple colors at the same time. I thought, wow, that's so cool. I went to the store, and when I picked up the sneakers, all the laces puddled out. So it was something that would look cool in a store window, but not something you could do for real. And I was like, but what if you really could do that? So ULACE, I went back home and I developed ULACE. ULACE really started out mainly as this fashion thing to kind of allow people to put colors and different, multiple colors in their sneakers at the same time. But ultimately, consumers were like, hey, I'm not going to say I was so smart. Like, it was a fashion thing. But then consumers were like, hey, guess what? I love the fact that my sneakers are slip-ons now. And actually, it was the consumers who really kind of pushed the direction of the brand to focusing on the fact that, hey, a lot of people really do want to be able to just kind of slip their sneakers on and go. And so ULACE actually invented that product category. There was not a no-tie lace category the way we did it. There were curly Q laces and other stuff, but as far as modular no-tie laces, where each lace goes into a set of eyelets, we invented that product category back in 2008. And so when you really look at it, we've actually been in business coming up on 17 years.
It's a great story in the years, and your story reminded me two stories of another big companies and founders, and I want to share one. A trip to Japan. If anyone knows the Phil Knight story of Nike, it started in Japan with the sneakers there, and kind of what was brought back. So here you go, and also a Steve Jobs quote: "Product and market research, or market research than a product. Sometimes you have to come up with a product, the passion product, and then the customers are the one who are going to create that market for it." And here you go.
You want to know
That
what's
is the
going to
case
happen.
with a ULACE.
You want to know what's coming down the pike, whether it's electronics or whether it's, fashion or somebody saying that. Go take a trip to Tokyo and go to Harajuku and just kind of sit and watch. You'll see what the trends are.
One of my bucket lists, definitely, and it's one of the things that me and my wife definitely planning to hit. All right, thank you for that. So the follow up question is kind of an transition journey, right? So you came out with a product. Tell us, and I'm going to break it down on the follow up. What was the thinking behind? All right, I have this great product. I have a demand. What are the channels that I'm going to diversify to deliver this product to the consumer?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of my background first. Before I started ULACE, I ran the biggest business for New Era Cap Company, the 5950 fashion business. And my first year running that business, because of my trend spotting ability and trying to figure out what was coming next, I beat my sales numbers by like $56 million my first year running that business. But so I had this big track record at New Era, like the sales guys and distributors at New Era. I was their global trend spotter. I was their global trend liaison in addition to running that business. So soon as I came up with ULACE, I had already left New Era. A bunch of global distributors from New Era are like, look, based upon what you've done here, we want it. So we very quickly went into Brazil. We went back into Japan. We were in Europe. We were in parts of Asia. So we very quickly became bigger around the globe than we were even in the US. So one of our biggest hunks of business was our global distributors. They placed orders with us. We placed the order to factory and they handled it from there. We then started focusing in the US on retailers. We looked at big retailers, struggled a little bit trying to get into a big retailer. But then we started going into franchise retailers. So we got into places like Learning Express. We got into places like Toy Towns and all these. So we built up a network of hundreds of independent distributors. And then we focused heavily on our own website. So our business, we really had three channels coming in for the business, which was global wholesale, which was primarily smaller independent retailers, and then our direct to consumer, which was ULACE.com.
They're very interesting because, so you outline all those areas of delivering the product. And from the beginning, because a lot of times you see there is a clear diversification in between, it's a wholesale retail and a D2C being pushed aside. And this is one of the models. And, for everyone, any other brand owners, why I'm bringing this
I don't
up.
want to make it seem like it's too easy, though. The global part,
None of it is.
global. Yeah. I mean, we were bigger. We were 8 times as big global than we were in the US initially. Like our guys in Japan, I mean, again, we came with the idea there, it blew up in Japan, right? And then we were pushing massive amounts of product into Europe.
I guess the biggest lesson here, Tim, was kind of for audience as well, is diversification of the channels, the importance of it, not focusing on the one area. And that seemed, the way you played out from the beginning. It's kind of a very key lesson. And the D2C portion, the importance of it, to be direct to consumer and get their sense. Because a lot of times what I know when it comes to a retailer and wholesaler, you may not have the actual feedback and know what the customers are saying because it goes through multiple hands. And D2C allows you to have that connection with them, which is great. It's always a great channel to have. And with that,
and you definitely want to have a review app so that you can collect reviews, because again, that's kind of social proof is really good. So like we've got thousands and thousands of like 5-star reviews. So you can't get that from a consumer at a store. You can't get it from a distributor, and it really helps with the business in general.
Yes, it's another great point. With that, I want to kind of make the transition to an overall subject here as well, which is, so you had a D2C. Tell us about your transition to Amazon. First of all, again, I'd like to understand the mindset behind it. Hey, we need Amazon, why we need it, and kind of, what was the steps there and the experience overall?
I'll say this, prior to the pandemic, COVID in 2020, we had put product on Amazon, and it was, we were just doing okay with it. It wasn't a major thing for us. But what we saw during COVID was that, Amazon went from 10% of our direct-to-consumer sales, it went to 20, and then it went up to 30, and it just kept nipping up. And so at that point, we kind of realized, look, the tide of consumer trends and how people were shopping and buying was heading towards Amazon. So we decided to kind of go a little bit deeper in Amazon with kind of FBM. We still wanted to control.
Yes.
We still wanted to control what we were shipping and what we, just so we know what was going out of the door, and we wanted more control over that part of the business. But eventually we looked up, and now Amazon is like 40%, 50% of the business. And at that point, this is a couple more years down the road, then that's when we kind of started doing some research and, met you guys through another guy who was a good friend of ours, Felipe.
I'm sure I'm going to have him here.
Yeah. Who was doing business with you guys and happy with it. And that was the transition where we said, okay, let's go FBA. I mean, clearly people want, I've done a research and realized that, look, 80% of consumers aren't even going to buy it if it's not FBA. They're paying for Prime. They want all the benefits of Prime. And if it's not Prime, they won't even give you a chance. So we did the research, and together we redid all the images with you guys. You guys have great folks that do great imagery and graphics. We started, I think, in January last year, and we were still FBM because we needed to get the listings fixed. We needed to get the imagery done. And I think around March, we went FBA, and sales just shot up. And I think it exceeded both of what we thought.
Yeah. And So I'll get back to that, talking about some of the things that we went through, because I think the audiences will be also interesting. One of the things that I want to have on this show as well, one of the reasons I do, because as you know, and you are one of them, as I recall, when it comes to the service providers in the space, it's a lot. And a lot of the times, the aggressive approach and predatory approach, some of the service providers leave such a negative and bad taste, on a relationship with the brand owners, that it is really hard to kind of see beyond the experience that they had. And one of the reasons I made this podcast itself is a lot from learning from showing, is to show that it's not always the case. There's a lot of things to kind of become in a mutual relationship to build when it comes to service provider and Amazon brand.
Yeah, and I skipped over it because we had worked with two other agencies before you guys. The first one really kind of helped us get going on it right during the pandemic, and I think they took us to a space that was okay. But also, I think they had their hands very deep in our pockets, right? Taking a hunk of the sales, right? And so we finally separated from them because we didn't see any growth. We went to another agency who gave us, they had a service that they said was they could do great images. Images were really subpar, and the returns were low, but they still had their hands deep in our pockets. Amazon and those guys were the only ones making money. And then we met one other agency before we talked to you guys, and what they were saying was just sounded so ridiculous. And I'm just gonna say it, like I've told people, like in all of the history of us dealing with agencies, you guys are the only agency in the history of agencies that we've dealt with. I'm not joking, right?
This wasn't script, everyone, so I didn't ask him to say anything.
No. I've told a lot of people, like, you guys are the only agency that has delivered on what you promised, and we feel like you're actually like on our side. Like, you're on our side. And so too bad you guys don't do some other stuff, because like,
we'll get back to that.
Yeah. But yeah, literally the only one, the only agency. And yeah, we've sworn off other agencies for everything else. Like this, you're the only one that has actually delivered.
Thank you. I have a question that I think that will be very interesting for our listeners aside from this, because in our agency we already have 3 or 4 other Shark Tank featured. A couple of them are going, and we're not part of it at that time. And I swear I saw you on it. I was an avid watcher of Shark Tank. So can you tell us how it impacted your business? Were you on Amazon during the Shark Tank feature time? Were you wearing? It will be interesting to hear if it had any impact, what kind of an impact, and how you were prepped for.
I mean, Amazon has really changed our business, right? And, in some ways, you wish that some things would be the same, but like I said, we moved recently, and we're moving out of a, 6,000 square foot space that was, almost half of it was office space. And one of the things that Amazon has allowed us to do is push a tremendous amount of both the back office and even front office stuff onto Amazon, right? So we can run this business a lot more efficiently, a lot more kind of hands off, which kind of opens some time for me to look at other opportunities to make money, right? But Amazon at this point is now, I just ran the end of year numbers. It's like 86% of our business. It's a huge hunk, but we've also taken advantage of things that Amazon has to make life better. The first thing we did was to avoid a lot of those kind of redistribution fees. We went to Amazon AWD, Amazon Warehousing Distribution. So now we pay Amazon to warehouse our product. And actually, it's much cheaper than what we were paying to warehouse it in our own warehouse.
Very hot topic, and I'm glad you bring it up. Please, yes.
That's first. And then we looked at it and said, Amazon offered the opportunity for us to pay less warehouse fee if we allowed them to move the product from our manufacturers overseas to that warehouse. So that is Amazon Global Logistics. So we made that move. So now instead of going through the forwarders that we had, which were actually more expensive, product is delivered to Amazon's warehouse overseas, goes on boats that they control. And so from touching it to getting it to their warehouse, they are now responsible for it. But those costs have lowered our cost also. And it also puts the onus on Amazon to safely get that product from the factory to their warehouse and then redistribute it to us, instead of us shipping it here and having to redistribute it, or us shipping it there and hoping that it gets there.
Yeah, exactly. And for everyone out there, what Tim brought up is one of the transitions and fully accomplished transition that we have done. We're doing it more right now, which is an AGL, AWD fulfillment center, Amazon Global Logistics, Amazon Warehousing Distribution, and the final fulfillment center, complete Amazon channel management, which allowed us to save time, save money, and we're making it as more efficient. With that as well, what we're seeing an increase in the conversion, because what happens in Amazon, when it comes from Amazon warehouse distribution and to fulfillment center, Amazon warehouse distribution automatically, based on their algorithmic reading, places the product to the areas where he sees the historic cause demand, which allows us, those buyers, to get the products way faster, which in its case enhances our conversion. So it is a very much, and there's a lot of controversy, a lot of talks about it. There's a lot of antitrust towards giving everything to Amazon. I'm never against. I was always been an advocate with the consideration, understanding of a necessary evil concept you hear a lot on Amazon. But these programs, when placed right, when managed right, and it fits the business model, can absolutely work and do create tremendous value. So whatever you are at in the journey of that, I would certainly recommend you or your service provider get into to understand the dynamics. We've done that due diligence with Tim. Tim is one of the one of the persons who spearheaded that, understanding the numbers and kind of working together to see
the
value.
I'm always looking at the fee structure and seeing if Amazon has a way for me to kind of lower those fees. Certainly, if you've got a big, heavy product, that's a little bit different. But when we looked at it, we were like, wow, 43 or 40 something cents per cubic foot of space. I'm thinking how many packs of ULACE I can store in that space versus paying 57 cents per pack to be redistributed to a different FBA warehouse. I mean, it was a no-brainer for us.
And another great lesson, this is so impactful, which is Amazon sellers, understanding your numbers are going to be the key to success. It is so easy to get involved and get confused by the top numbers that you may see when you're having an explosive sales growth or whatever it is, and not understand every penny that goes and where it goes, and think that the business are doing well, when in fact you may lose a ton of money. And even if you're not losing everything, you can certainly save in certain areas. Understanding your margins of the business in Amazon is a key component to be successful business owner. I'm not talking about brand owner. I'm not talking about to be an Amazon seller. I'm talking about as a business owner, how important it is. So, the great tips coming on from Tim here.
Yeah, that redistribution fee is a killer.
Yeah, it is. Especially placement fee. Just recently, I shared kind of my predictions of 2025, and we may see some, coming up challenges, whether the cost per click increase, whether it's the fulfillment cost increase. It's all in the realm of possibilities. We need to be realistic about it. And with that, it does not mean we have to give up and drop. What we need to do as a seller, we need to adopt and find new ways how to make this work for us, and use every opportunity that Amazon gives. And this is one of them. So again, certainly thank you for sharing your experience. As a matter of fact, you actually answered one of the questions that I had on automatic. Like, what was the memorable things that we've gone through? And this is certainly one of the memorable transitions that we've had among so many other things we've done. You mentioned the graphic design, FBA transition, all of that. But I think one of the key big transitions was this.
And I think one of the largest impact things on our margin, like I said, that redistribution fee, we can store 200 units at AWD for less than redistributing one pack of product.
Yeah, clearly.
To another FBA facility.
So, and we get to our final questions here, which is, again, for anybody out there, and right now we have a looming thing in front of so many sellers, which is the TikTok, right? It may get shut down. There's so many sellers out there that they may lose the home where they sell their product. So, what would you tell those sellers who, let's say, selling somewhere else, thinking to go on Amazon, or someone who's just interested about Amazon space and transitioning to Amazon? What will be your advice to those other brands? That
I just say you have to be smart and agile. Look, I mean, you kind of have to move where the market's moving, or the market will move without you, right? And so, think about what you do when you need something. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you pick up your phone and you go to Amazon and you search for it and you see how quickly you can get it.
yes,
And whether you want it shipped at home, whether you want it shipped to your office, or whether you want it shipped to an Amazon locker or wherever, but 9 times out of 10, that's what you do. And that means that particularly folks with Prime, a few 100 million people with it, that's exactly what they're going to do. So if you're not on Amazon, you're probably leaving a huge hunk of business on the table. And I'm not saying people shut down websites. We're not shutting down our website either.
oh, and
But
I have a good point about it.
but at the same time, if you're not on Amazon, the question is, it's not a question of whether you're leaving a whole lot, leaving money on the table. It's how much.
Yeah. And I was in Istanbul, last year already. I come by so quick, but an e-commerce summit, and one of the subject was, and the host was Neil Patel. He owns a large marketing agency, I think Patel Digital, yeah. And his data, and everyone who's interested, I can share that. One of his key data were that the D2C brands were scared to move into Amazon. It's a valid thing, like a lot of sellers out there have it. And and the scarce is that if I go to Amazon, I'm going to lose my my D2C sales. And the fact, the data shows that for the first 3 to 6 months, that transition will be, you will start losing and increasing on the sales on the Amazon. But guess what happens on the second half of the year? The sales on both platforms grow, so all you end up adding an overall revenue with the time. And one of the key reasons, I always bring an example from my wife here. So my wife, just like that, shops on Amazon, discovers, I want to be specific, discovers brands on Amazon. Not shop, but discover brands. Imagine a scenario where my wife goes looking for no lace, shoelace keywords, does not know about a ULACE. Your product pops up, she buys it, and then next time, and it happened multiple times. She goes back and buys from where? From your website, because there are more values. She's always curious what the website offers that Amazon doesn't. Then she becomes a shopper of your website. Thus, increase of the website, because a lot of times website offers more value, extra pair, a discount, a sticker, whatever it is. In your case, we have the lace bodies as a combination. There are this discoverability value on Amazon that the brands don't recognize. And that's why the Neil Patel study showed that within a year and a half, you see the growth of the website sale as well. If you see that decline, because that's kind of what happened. So brands, there are multiple studies on that. Do not be afraid. Amazon is a place that you need to be. If you are not, your competitor will be, and it will serve them, and you will lose them forever. So it's very important to be. And of course, goes without saying, learn Amazon. Know as much as you can. Do not trust blindly. If you're going to hire a service provider, learn about them, know about them, trust. Speak with the brands that they manage. And I always suggest to learn yourself also as much as you can. You heard Tim talking about Amazon so much. It's not like he knows pretty much everything that goes on the account. We do a lot of management there, a lot of technical stuff, a lot of suggestions, strategic. But Tim knows everything about Amazon, and that's what the great partnership also is, rather than not knowing. So for anybody out there, this is the kind of a formula to be successful in the transition. If you're thinking about it, well, of course, my emails will be always open to any consultation you have. But Tim, this was a great conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you for opening up about your transitions and your journey from a retail to the D2C to Amazon. I hope the listeners can take their lessons out of this. And again, good to have you here today.
Now, Ruben, thank you. And like I said, I 100% meant it. I'm not being paid or anything, but like, again, this is the only relationship we've ever found with an agency where we got what we were paying for, and we actually feel like this is a true partnership. Like you want us to win.
Yes, I do.
And
I do. I'm not gonna lie. I think one of the first conversations that my passion, aside from business owner, I need money to survive as a business, right? So, but aside from that, one of my passions is also being associated with it. I feel good talking about, I'm working with team from ULACE, I'm working with a read through, I'm working with others and others because it just feels good to be part of the someone, part of the journey and of that brand. So uh, again, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and everyone, thank you for listening.
thanks for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. I'll see you soon.
All right.
Take care.
Appreciate it, buddy.